The next concept is nested switch. Can we write one switch block inside another switch block? So for this, the first thing, possibility or not? Yes, it is possible. Java supports this one. So to understand this nested switch, let me take one example or some requirement. The requirement is based on year, based on year of a BTech. So there will be 4 years, right? First year, second year, then third year, and fourth year. And in every year, there will be different branches, correct? For example, CSE, some ECE, and then say triple E. Like this. In second year also, the same 3 branches will be there or not, will not be? They will be there, correct? CSE here also. Then again ECE, then triple E. So like this, there are multiple branches are there in every year. Here also the same branches are there. Yeah. And when it comes to subjects, the first year CSE subjects are same for second year also or different? Same or different? Different, right? Why will study same subjects in every year? So for example, here it is ABC. Then here it is a DEF, for example. Then here, say GHI. Then JKL, something like this. And out of these two, if I take 3, then it will be very lengthy. I'll take only triple E. Then here also I'll take some small. ABC is the subjects for first year. Then DEF lowercase for second year. Just assume that. GHI, then JKL. Now the requirement is, if the input is year, and branch, then the output has to be the subjects. So how do we get this? So by using if else, it will be very lengthy program, but with the help of switch, we can make it easier. So this is where the nested switch scenario comes into the requirements. Yep. So first, can we write a switch for years? Can we write one switch for years? If year is 1, go to execute first case. If year is 2, execute second case. 3, execute third case. Then 4, fourth case. Some other number, then default case. Then if it is first case, then again with the help of subject. If it is CSE, execute first case. If it is triple E, execute second case. If it's something else, then execute default case. Similarly, if it is 2 and then CSE, triple E. 3, again CSE and triple E. 4, CSE, triple E. So like that, we can go for one switch for year number, and we can go for one more switch for the branch. Then output has to be so this is branch and this is year. So one switch is for years and one switch is for the branches. Then output has to be subjects. Then how do we write this? So first, depends on the requirement. The input is year and also branch. Year will be what type? Int type, right? So int y for year equals some integer value. The next branch is string type. Therefore, string b for branch equals some string value in double quotes. So then first we'll be writing the switch. So which one we have to consider? Year or branch? First one. We can consider anything. It's not a problem. So it depends on how do you feel comfortable. We can go for it. Switch in lowercase letters. Then y for year. This is the outer switch, right? Then what are the allowed case labels type? Y is which type? Int type. Then here, can we write one case? Case 1. Is it correct? Yes. I'll leave some place for writing the code. the case has to be end with break statement or not? Yes, because it's the same output or different outputs. For each scenario, different output. Therefore, this has to end with a break. Then what's next possibility? So because of no space, I'm writing beside. What's next case? Case year 2. Then again leave some space for year 2. Then followed by the break. Then like this, case 3. And also case 4 for 4 years. Am I correct? Case 4, even for 4th year also. Is this part is clear or any doubts? All of you. So here also one break, here also one break. Then what's alternate for this? If the input is not 1, 2, 3, 4, then default print enter 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 only. That's it. Then end of my switch. Outer switch is ended. Then if in switch case 1, what is the next one? If the year is 1, then we have to pick the branch. That's why. So here can we use a switch? Switch B for branch. And the B is which type? String type. Therefore, what are the allowed case labels type? String type only. Then case, say for example, CSE in double quotes is the first scenario, colon. Then if it is CSE, what are we supposed to print? ABC. Then system.out.println, the subjects are ABC. Semicolon. And what's the next part? Break statement. The next followed by case, what second case? Triple E. Then colon, print DEF. Yeah, is the second case label. Then anyhow it's end of switch, but it's better to write break. So this is case 1. What about case 2? If it is year 2 also, again the same thing we have to write for the subjects as well. Therefore, once again a switch, then B for branch, and if this branch is then case CSE in string format, then colon, then SOP of print the subjects, then break. Next followed by one more case, then triple E in double quotes, then colon, then print of the subjects, and then break. Like this, same thing for third case, same thing for fourth case also. This is where outside one switch, inside another switch. This is what we call it as a nested switch scenario. And this is the example for understanding that. Am I clear? Or do you have any doubts or any questions on this? Yeah. If I ask you to write the code directly, if I ask you to write the code just by exploiting the thing, this is the most common mistake you'll make. You may write this break, I agree, but we will forget to write this break. Because of this, it goes with a invalid output. And here also one default to say that enter CSE or triple E only. Here also one default, here also. So this is the example of a nested switch. And just I'm giving a scenario. When we should go for nested switch? If first input, multiple cases. Second input also, multiple cases. In that scenarios, instead of going for if-else conditions, if you write a switch-based program, it will be much faster when it comes to the output as well. Yeah. Still any questions? Or is it clear? Tell me, please. Clear?
Clear, sir. Clear.
Okay. I request you to execute and cross-verify this program. Yeah. Done. I am moving to the next concept. So with this, I am done with the conditional statements. With this, the 3 types of conditional statements. that is if and then ternary and then switch is done. Yeah. So for this, I think I have given some practice questions to work on it, but I recommend, so go to Google, search for Java conditions practice questions. And practice as many number of questions as possible. So to develop your logic and some important questions, what we can expect, I have given, but still I recommend those things. If you think enough, no. So just go for some search and take some 100 different questions and try to practice them by writing the handwritten code first, then executing by through Eclipse. Yeah. So that's how we can improve the logic. There is no shortcut at all, only practice. Done? Yeah. Then the next part. So here I'll go for a next scenario. The scenario is, so print 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 10 with our known knowledge. How do we get this output? So I mean, output has to be 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on up to 10 in separate lines. So this is the expert output. How do we get this output with our previous knowledge? Is it possible or not possible? Possible.
Possible.
Then please tell me how to do it. One thing we can do, system.out.println, print 1, then print 2, then 3, like this, print 10. Is it correct or not? Is this syntactically correct or wrong?
Correct.
It's correct only. Yeah, syntactically correct. The next, if the same thing, can you do like this? For example, the int number equals 1. The next, some int sum equal to 0. First write what? Sum plus number and store it back to sum. And then print sum. Is it correct? Syntactically, is it correct? Yes. So first 1 will be stored into number, 0 will be stored into sum. Then num is how much? 1. Sum is how much? 0. Then result is how much? 1. Always a Java line will be executed right to left whenever there is a assignment operators there. That's why at the end of this line of code, sum is having a number called as 1. Therefore, what's output? 1 will be the output.
One.
The next line, to the current latest value of sum, again add the number and assign back to sum and then print sum. I mean, it's a system.out.println. Then again print sum. Now tell me, what is the output of this line? What is the num value? 1 only, no change.
1.
What is the sum value? So here it is 1. Latest value is 1. Then what's the result? 2. Therefore, what's output? 2. Next, can I write once again? Sum equals to sum plus num. And then system.out.println, print sum once again. What's output? 3. Then same 2 lines once again, 4. Like this, 10 times if we write it. Do we get the output or not up to 10? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
This also one more way. This is also one more way. Then out of these two, which is recommended? Is the first approach or is the second approach? So to fulfill this
First approach, sir.
requirement, which is recommended?
By giving simply print statement 1 to 10 is easy, sir. But using the logic and all, the second one looks hard.
Okay. What's your answer? So here, oh, maybe 10, so it looks a bit easy. But what if I want to print up to 1 lakh? Will you write this 1 lakh times print statements? No. Will you write these 2 lines for 1 lakh times? Therefore, the answer is both are not recommended. These two are not recommended. Why? Why means the reason is this is called as code repetition. Code repetition, we also call it as code redundancy. Code redundancy means what? Same line of code with one small change is written for 10 times. Here also, same 2 lines of code is written for 10 times. To get the output as 1 to 10, 10 times the same thing is repeated. Correct or not? This is also called as code duplication. Duplicate code we are writing again and again and again. That's why it's called as code duplication. That's why it's not recommended. Then do we have any solution? How do you avoid this
We can
problem?
use if loop.
Yeah, so for this, the solution. So there is a problem. Therefore, what is the solution for this problem? Loops concept is a solution. The looping has to happen just by changing the numbers. The looping has to happen to execute same 2 lines of code for 10 times. So in such scenarios, we have to go for a loops concept. So to have the meaning of when to go for loops, to execute a block of code for specific number of times. Then use loops. So specific number of times, it means it's a limited number of times. Unlimited number of times, loops are not meant for that. Okay. That specific number of times can be based on some values, based on some results. Yeah. So this is where why loops we have to understand. So because of these problems, there is a problem with this approach also. Then to solve that problem, we have a solution called loops in Java. Yeah. Then how many types of loops that Java supports? The types of loops are, one is for loop,
If loop, while loop,
for loop. The next, while loop. Next, your do while loop. The next one, there is a for each loop. So for each loop, we'll pronounce it as for each loop, but we'll use for only as a keyword. Each is not used as a keyword. So at this point, we will discuss about for, we'll discuss about while, and we'll discuss about do while. This for each loop is discussed later because it is not meant for using it directly. So it will be useful when it comes to some group of elements are there. So that's why once we move to the other concepts, wherever it is required, that's where I'll be discussing about for each loop syntax, not in this loops concept. Exclusively not with loops concept. Then to discuss about these loops to start with, first one is for loop syntax. Am I going fast?
No.
Am I going fast? No. So when it comes to for loop syntax, first thing is for. First thing is for. It's a for is a predefined keyword. Then parenthesis. So here initialization. Initialization. Then semicolon is a part of syntax. The next condition. Then semicolon. Then increment or decrement. Any one only, not both. Then close of the parenthesis. Then open and closed curly brace for loop body. So here any meaningful Java code. So this is the for loop syntax. Then how this will become a loop? So when it comes to JVM's execution, of course, with the example, you'll understand much better. But how this will become a loop is when JVM comes to for loop, the first thing to be executed is initialization. This is the first thing to be executed. Then JVM goes to condition check. This is the second thing to be executed. Then what type of condition it has to be? The same as like our if conditions. This condition has to be the end result as Boolean. The end result of this condition has to be Boolean, which is either true or false. Assume when JVM check for the condition, this is a true scenario. Then once the condition becomes true, then JVM enters into the body and execute this. This is the third step to be executed. After executing all these lines, when JVM comes to this closed, the JVM will not come out of the loop, will not come out of the loop. After executing all these lines of code, then JVM goes for the increment or decrement. This is the fourth step to be executed. Then from this increment or decrement, again JVM will comes back to condition check. This is the fifth step. Assume this time also it is true. Then JVM executes the body. Then JVM goes for increment or decrement. Again comes for the condition. Assume again true. Again execute this body and goes for incrementation. Again comes for the condition check. So this is how it will become loop. Then when this will be stopped? When the result of this condition becomes false. In some scenario or after executing certain number of times, based on the condition, this condition result will become false. Once this condition becomes false, then from condition, JVM comes out of the for loop. So this is the execution flow. And because of this condition check, execution of body, increment, condition, execution, and increment. So this is called as a looping process. So how many times it will loop? It depends on condition. Based on condition only, we can terminate the loop. Yeah. So this is the, this will become a loop and it is a syntax. Do you have any questions? Any questions? No. Then, so we have come to this question or this requirement with the help of this printing output. So print 1, 2, 3, and so on in 10, up to 10 in separate lines. So now how this loop will become a solution for this requirement? So for this, if I ask you to write it, will you write a loop? By using this for loop syntax, I'm asking you to write this. Is it possible? Yeah. So, okay. So here, the first thing is, before we go for writing a loop, we have to understand some things. First thing is, the data is, what's the type of data? The type of data is what? integer. That's the first thing. What is your first output? In your output, what's the first value? 1. Second value, 2, 3, and so on. What's the last value? 10. So this is the expected output, correct? Then in this, the first value will be always used as a initialization. Then last value will be used to write the, this will be used for writing the condition. Then after first value, what's the next value? 2. How much is the difference? Increasing or decreasing? Therefore, we have to use increment only. How much is that? Plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, and so on, plus 1. So this is nothing but incrementation. So with this understanding, we can write the loop comfortably. So to start with, assume this is my main method. So directly can we write loop or anything is required? Directly we can write it. So that is to start with for in lowercase letters. What is initialization? 1 has to be initialized first. 1 is which type? Int type. Therefore, data type, then variable name, assignment operator, value, semicolon. This is what we call it as initialization. Second thing, what is the condition? So this up to which value this loop has to run? 10. The I value with 10. Yeah. Then here, what are we supposed to use? All the remaining values are less than 10 or more than 10. Less than 10. That's why use less than. I repeat, all the remaining values are less than the last output. That's why I'm using less than. Then 10 also should be part of output or 10 is excluded. It should be. Therefore, use equals to also. Then semicolon separation. What is the incrementation? Each time the value has to increase by 1. Which value? The I variable value. That's why I equals I plus 1 is the incrementation. So this is for loop header. Then inside this for loop body, what are we supposed to do? Just we have to print it. So here system.out.println, which value you have to print? Every time the I value you have to print it. It's a variable, so therefore use as it is. Now with this, we are going to get the output called as 1 to 10. Yeah. So this understanding will make us to write the loop very, very comfortably. Am I clear? Progressions in the sense? No. Not only limited for progressions. So this is to start with. I'm using for loop, whereas we are using to print this values. And if you go to some other requirements where I want to execute some lines of code multiple times, 10 times I want to execute some other code, then in that scenario, these progression numbers will not come. Yeah. So with my examples, you'll understand as we move forward. So I got your question, but you didn't get my answer. Okay. So here, so for this example, we are printing the I value, which is a part of the loop installation condition and increment. Sometimes what will happen is we will be writing the same thing to just run a loop for 10 times. But the logic what we are going to write inside a loop doesn't depends on I. That's what I mean. So the answer is it is not only for progressions, it is for various requirements. Wherever the looping is required, that's where we'll be using the loops. Yeah. The next process is when it comes to any loop-based question, any loop-based questions, we no need to bother about our code is correct or not when we execute it if we follow the next steps. That is nothing but the tracing or loop iterations. So what is that? So here, that is when it comes to any loop based question and which is obviously for every interview. without loops, without arrays, without strings, your interview will never complete. The coding interview will never complete. So that's why to understand whether my code is correct or not, without any Eclipse execution and all those things, so we have to trace it. For tracing, what is the execution flow? The same way I'm taking some requirements or conditions here. So first my I value. Second condition, what is that? I less than or equal to 10 is the condition. Next print statement. So what is my output? Then what is the increment or decrement? So that is anyhow, again, I value only. These three things I am using for a tracing or iterations. So let us understand this. First, to start with, when JVM comes to this line, what is the first step to be executed? Int I equals to 1. Therefore, I value will become 1. Then where JVM goes? Condition check. 1 less than or equal to 10. Current I value 1 less than or equal to 10. What's the result? True or false? True. Therefore, JVM enters into the body. What is there? Print the current I value. What's output? 1. Then JVM goes for incrementation. So current I value, add 1 to that. Therefore, I will become what? 2. Am I correct? Then where JVM should go? Condition check. What's the condition? Current I value less than 10 or not. 2 is less than or equal to 10. True or false? True. Therefore, enters into the body. Then prints current I value. What's the output? 2. Then goes for incrementation of 1. Then I becomes 3. Then comes for condition check. The next 3 less than or equal to 10. True or false? True. Therefore, enters into the body. Then prints I value. Like this, then goes for incrementation and so on. Assume that it has reached to 10. It has reached to 10. Then what's the after I value becomes 10, then the condition check will happen. 10 less than or equal to 10. True or false? True. Therefore, execute the body. Print the latest I value. Then next step, where it should go? Out of the for loop? No, this is where the mistake will happen. Condition become false? Not yet. So therefore, again JVM also goes for incrementation. Then I value will be updated to 11. Then comes for the condition check. What is the condition? 11 is less than or equals to 10 or not. This is a false scenario. Now JVM will come out of the for loop. So with my tracing process, are we getting expert output or not? Then my loop is correct. If you are not getting, then my logic is wrong or my code is wrong somewhere. So for every for loop question, it is recommended to trace first 1 or 2 iterations and observe the output pattern. Then last 2 iterations where last scenario is true and definitely where last scenario is becoming false. These 4 things, if you are able to trace for every for loop, then you will never go wrong in writing the loop logics. But I surely know you will not follow.